So I want to do an update video on Zoloft, thanks to a comment from Jason Gindron. Shout out Jason. He asked me on my Zoloft 2-month update. He left a comment. He said, "How are startup side effects? And when you first started, did you get an increase in depression and a feeling of numbness?" So that was too long. My answer is too long for the comments. So I've taken it a few times, but this is the first time I've taken it sober, and it's much better sober. The first time I took it was after a bad breakup with somebody I really loved, and I was still drinking and using, and I had the worst depression in the world. It made it so, I was already so depressed, but when I started taking this off, it made it so much worse. And it really made me see why, like, some people go on antidepressants and then they do something crazy, because that's kind of how it made me feel. It made me feel way worse. What I realize now is I wasn't doing things right, and I should not have been mixing it with anything. So I think, so when I drink with it, it makes everything worse. You feel, you can, for me, I can drink way more for some reason when I'm on it. Like, I can drink more than I would normally drink. It's weird. But I also get way worse depression the next day. Yeah, it really messes with your brain. And I will say, let's see, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place right now. So I'm on 100 milligrams, and I've been on 100 milligrams for about 3 months. The first time I took it, I started at like 25 and then moved up to 50, and I never got past 50. I actually don't agree in going up slowly. I know a lot of people say go up slowly. In my experience, the side effects were just as bad going up slowly as they were all the way. So I went up this last time. I started at 50 and then went to 100. And yeah, I had side effects, but they weren't as bad. And part of the reason they weren't as bad is because I learned how to deal with them. The first time I did it, I got really bad headaches. I got really bad clenching of the jaw. I got anxiety and depression way worse. I got really tired. I was constantly tired, and it just made me crazier, honestly. And everybody kept saying, "You got it. It's going to take a long time. It takes like a month. You just have to get through that." And so I basically just laid in bed all day, every day. And what I now know, part of that is, so the reason it was so bad when I went on it in the first time was partly because it was situational, right? It wasn't just something wrong with my brain. It was that I had lost somebody I love, and I had also like lost a ton of money, and like my life was just falling apart, and I didn't know how to fix it. So that's situational depression, right? And though antidepressants don't necessarily fix those things, because the reality is not that you're depressed. It's the reality. I mean, the reality is not a brain disorder. The reality is your life sucks. And so the appropriate response is depression, you know? Like, you are in a depressed period of life. Everything sucks around you. Antidepressants don't necessarily make you happy. They just make you not depressed, is kind of the idea. And I'll kind of get into that, how they affect me. So I think part of the reason it didn't work for me the first time, and I ended up quitting after like a month and a half or something. I just couldn't take it anymore. I was getting such terrible headaches, the jaw clenching and stuff. So what I learned the second time I took it is, do not clench your jaw and you won't get the headaches. So that first week, I actively try not to clench my jaw. And I constantly am like making sure I'm not clenching, because if I don't clench, then I don't get those headaches. So that helped with that side effect. The other thing I would recommend is I actually don't think you should start antidepressants when you're super depressed. I actually learned that I go on them when I think depression's coming up, or when things are probably going to start getting hard, or things aren't going good, but I'm not completely depressed, because yeah, they do kind of make you worse at the beginning. They can. And so this time when I went on, it wasn't at my worst. I waited until I was a little bit better and then went on. I wasn't at rock bottom, because when you're at rock bottom, adding any more difficulty is just too much to handle. So for me, I choose not to go on antidepressants when I'm super, super depressed. I wait until I'm a little bit better, and then go on them, because then I can handle that little bit of a worse mood. The other thing is, I always plan to have a couple, I would like a week off work. I know it's not always possible, but like starting on like a 3-day weekend, or starting like on your Friday and then your Saturday, Sunday will be day 2 and 3. Sometimes that helps. You're going to be very tired. That was one of the things that doesn't really necessarily, it takes a long time to go away for the tiredness thing for me. Let's see. Did I feel an increase in depression and feeling of numbness? Yeah, I do. It did give me a little bit of numbness in the beginning, and it still kind of does, but it's it's kind of a good numbness, because I kind of want numbness, right? Like if everything's going terribly and I'm super depressed and I'm worried about the future and I'm worried about this and that and I'm depressed over, everything in my life. Well, I kind of want to numb that out, right? I don't want to use drugs, because that's what I'd used before, is drugs and alcohol to numb it out. Well, this kind of helps you numb it out without, setting off those receptors for like drugs and alcohol. One other thing I'll say about when I started is you'll get these feelings of euphoria. Like it'll almost make you feel high for a little while, and like on certain days, and it comes and goes. And if you take an ecstasy, it's very similar to ecstasy, where you just kind of get this like high feeling, and you feel like and it's serotonin. That's what ecstasy releases, and that's like the bonding chemical. So you like feel like just like connected to people, and like happier and more connected to other people. And that is what that medication does for me, but it does it on once that initial period goes away and it kind of balances out, it's more like an appropriate level. So it just makes me a little bit more want to talk to people, a little bit more social, a little bit less socially anxious. And I think it's been great. It's not perfect. It wasn't a magic pill like I was hoping it would be, just to make me happy, because I feel more me now, right? Like I feel like I have more ups, like normal ups and downs, than I did before. It kind of just put me at like, oh yeah, this is how I'm acting appropriately for the situation. That combined with helping me out with like a little bit of the social anxiety, and then like it kind of just makes you want to get to know people more. Like I would want to have conversations with other people that normally I wouldn't, just to get to know them. It's, that's the serotonin. It's a bonding chemical. What else? The bad side effects do last a long time. Like mine last usually like 3 weeks, till they go away kind of. And then I don't feel really anything. And then about 4 or 5 weeks in, then I start to feel a little bit like better, like the medication's working. And I will say, like, man, just do not drink alcohol. Don't take any other substance. Let the medication do what it's supposed to do. Your brain needs to just have that one thing. And that's the only time it's ever worked for me. When I used other stuff, I would say, oh, this is bullshit, this doesn't work. When reality was because I wasn't using it how I'm supposed to use it. That's, you're not supposed to drink on it. I will say another side effect is like a little bit of brain fog, especially in the beginning, a little bit less memory recall. Like I kind of have a hard time remembering things or doing math in my head as high level as I used to be able to do it. I can still do it, and I can still remember things and recall people's names, but it's just slightly less capable than I was before, which for me, that's a fair trade-off. I'll take that over the depression and the anxiety. And I will say the more you are on the medication, those things don't go away, but they lessen. All the side effects lessen. And it takes, you know, I don't think they really, I always give it at least a month, you know. It takes a long time. It sucks. I almost start, when I start taking it, I almost just like forget that I'm taking it because I know it's not going to really help me for like a month at least. And like the other thing is every time you change the dose, this was one reason why I go from 50 to 100 pretty quickly and stay at 100 is because every time you change that dose, all those side effects come back. So if you're constantly changing it, like people would be like, oh, I've been on it for 6 weeks. I was on a week at 15, a week at 25, 2 weeks at 50. It's like, no, man, it kind of starts over every time you do that. Like not all the way, but it definitely brings those side effects back and takes your brain a little while to adjust. So like when I say it's like a month, I say a month on that dose, like get to that dose and then a month. And it's very slight, you know, little things just stop bothering you quite as much. You feel happier with like, you just feel more grateful. You can, one thing that I really noticed is I can sit here with nothing to do where normally I'd be bored and I'd be trying to find something to do. And I'm perfectly content just to sit here and like kind of just look around and think about things. And I don't feel anxiety. Like I can sit still, which is something I had a hard time doing before because I was just like always thinking, you know. It makes it easier to sit still. It makes it easier to be in the present moment. And those are really valuable. I will say it can, if I let it, it'll decrease my motivation. Like it'll decrease my motivation to go to the gym because I am more content doing nothing. So I have to be careful with that. Like, but I will say I've been able to combat that with just like, how would I say it? Having like a routine, you know, I kind of have my routine that I stick to. And once I'm in that routine, I feel motivated. I don't feel that lack. It's just that if I let that lack of motivation let me lay in bed and play video games too long, that'll become a pattern, right? And I will be okay with that, you know? So that's one thing I kind of have to be careful with. But yeah, it definitely does numb you out a little bit. And I mean, that's kind of why we're taking it, you know? But I will say one of the biggest misconceptions about it is like, I thought it would change who I was and make me like less me. And I've actually found it to be the opposite true, or found the opposite to be true. It's actually made me more me, more like I was before I had all this anxiety and depression, all this built up trauma and like things that happen, resentments and all that. It's almost like I'm back to being a kid where I can see the world in more positive light. And I don't have that anxiety. So like I can let new things in, right? I'm not constantly overwhelmed. I'm not as easily overwhelmed. Things that used to like overwhelm me before don't really overwhelm me, you know. It's just like, oh, this is what it is, you know, that's fine. I'm trying to think what else. What did he ask? Yeah, but the feeling is of increased depression and the headaches were the worst for me, and like the anxiety at the beginning. And my biggest tip for that is do not clench your jaw. Try to take time off work. Accept that it's not going to be a magic pill right away. It's going to take a long time, and you will have feelings of up and down. And drink. Oh, that's the other thing. It dehydrates you, so you can actually like wake up feeling hungover. Drink a ton of water on it. You really need to like drink a ton of water. Another one is it'll give you crazy heartburn if you try to take it without, or it gave me crazy heartburn if I tried to take it without, like the worst I've ever had, if I tried to take it without a ton of water or food. So I always eat a little something and drink a ton of water when I take it. You can take it in the morning or at night. It doesn't really matter. I will say like when you're starting, it makes me tired, but it makes me tired throughout the day. So it kind of almost doesn't even matter if I take it in the morning or night. But yeah, you might be laying in bed for like 10 hours. It's not uncommon. It's kind of normal at the beginning. And I would say like also like when it makes you feel like almost manic, because sometimes it makes you feel like really up and manicky. Don't do anything drastic. Definitely don't make any drastic decisions or do anything drastic in that first month, because just understand that your mind's not in the place it's gonna be. It'll give you like sexual side effects. This might be too much info, but it'll be harder to orgasm. And I think that worried me at first. Like it's harder to, stay up and everything, but it's kind of funny because actually now it's like I don't care as much about sex, which like kind of frees up a lot of my brain, which is great. And then the other thing is when I do like orgasm or something, yeah, it's harder to orgasm, but it actually feels even better than it does without it. So it's more intense. And that took a little while. So I wouldn't, if you're like, I know a lot of people quit because of the sexual side effects. For me, those were very temporary. Like I had them for a little while, but then now I'm like normal, but it's a little bit harder to finish, and it's more intense. And it's like it doesn't take up so much of my brain, dude. Like I was always thinking about like girls and sex and yeah, just constant. Now it's more like a normal amount, I think. Like it's better for me, I think. But I know it, and this is the thing, is everybody's different. You look on these message boards and you hear horror stories and stuff. I will say though that like I would always look on Reddit and stuff to see how it was, and most of it's negative. Don't search the negative, because people only go on Reddit for the negative. Once they feel better, they don't usually go back on Reddit. And then if you do search like on Reddit or search like results, always search for positive stories and like people that have been on it a while, those types of stories. You don't want to just, because if you just read the reviews, it's people that don't know any better. They've been taking it for a week. They're drinking. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not drinking enough water, and it makes them crazy and feel terrible. And it's like, yeah, well, it's gonna do that. Plus, it's just gonna do that to a certain extent in the beginning, and it really is a thing where it's like you feel like crap for, you'll feel nauseous, and I lose weight when I start it. I am not hungry at all. I think that's the serotonin, but it just makes me always lose weight. I don't really feel like eating. But then once it kicks in and you're like feel better, you can gain weight, because food tastes better, because it's just like you have more serotonin. So like, I don't know, things just feel better. Like when I touch things, it feels like better. And when I eat things, they taste better. So you have to be careful with that, because food tastes so good, you might overeat. And yeah, I would just give it a shot, see if it works for you. Like it's up to you. And again, like for me, I don't ever start it when I'm feeling super, super depressed. I always wait till I'm in more of a stable place, but I know I'm kind of need some help, because then I can handle those bad side effects, or wait till I have vacation time so I don't have to be, doing things that I don't want to do. But yeah, shout out to Jason Gindron and for the question. And if anybody else has more questions, ask me in the comments. I love talking about this stuff, so happy to answer. And I've been on 100 milligrams for about 3 months now. And that's the longest I've gone on it. And I'm very happy with the results. I don't really plan on going off anytime soon, but I do think eventually I will. Probably mostly because of like the little bit of brain fog and stuff. But I don't want to do it until my life's in a better place. Because I think a lot of people feel better and then they go off it, but their life really hasn't changed much. It's like No, you got to be on it while you fix your life, you know. And then once your life's in a better place and things are going well, then you can, you know, then I would talk about coming off it. But until things have improved, I don't really see a reason to go off it, because I feel better, and I feel like it's made it easier to stay sober and not use substances I shouldn't be using that aren't doctor prescribed. And yeah. Another thing that I really like is high EPA fish oil, B12 shots. I order vitamin B12 from an online pharmacy, and I give myself shots. That really helps me. And yeah, I think those vitamin D, they always say most people are, you know, lacking in vitamin D. I got a test one time and I was, but I still don't take it. I probably should, but I just never noticed a difference. Whereas like with the high EPA fish oils, I really notice a difference. With the B12 shots, I notice a difference. And with the Zoloft, I notice a difference. All right, I think that's it. I'll put this video up, and yeah, see you guys soon.